Hello, hello. Is anybody there? I know they're just posting the feed. We're starting to get fired up here. Confirm and live, says my message over here. Told what I had to change the stream. Excuse me. Hello, hello, hello. Can anybody hear me? Do I have sound? Do I have video? I'm public. Hey, I see Alan Duggan. Nice to see you, buddy. Thank you. We get one or two other people here and do a welcome and a greeting. Oh, that's interesting. This doesn't, I always get to do the same way you do. I get to watch and post like a user, so I don't see some of the things that I would normally see if I were just watching. This is, hey, good to see you, Tullowit. Geraldine, thank you very much. Here comes Scott, full audio and video. Sounds good. All right, well, it's 2:37. We're just a little bit behind the times. I'm sure somewhere in here we'll hear from Mike. Maybe he can phone in or Skype in or something like that. And my name is David Rush. I'm the senior instructor over at Total Seminars. I work for Mike, and I work more directly day to day with Scott Jernigan. You all know him very well. I do a whole bunch of things at the office. I am a researcher for things that Scott and Mike writes. I am a lot of hats to wear, except for when it comes to the really super deep tech that Michael Smyer does. Michael is our network guru, our coding guru. We have another coding guru who doesn't pop into here. He's much too focused, but Travis is out there somewhere. And as for me, I move around the office. I fix things. I set things up. I research things. I am a Raspberry Pi freak. I have, at any given time between the house and the office, about 60 of them running. And there's another 40 or 50 in a pile ready to rock and roll. But of course, what we want to do today is focus on A+, Net+, Sec+. I can take some specific questions on VLANs and managed switches, but I don't have Mike's presentation. So we're going to let that go as it rolls on. And again, maybe he's got something for us. And if not, then we'll push that back till Monday or next Wednesday. We'll see what he's got. So what I'm looking for is questions. I don't have any pop-ups here with my contact info. Periodically, maybe Scott will throw my email address up. I'll type it in right now just for hoots. This is my personal email address. I get a lot more stuff going on here than I do on my work email. So it's drushtx, like David Rush, Texas, at Yahoo. And kaboom. I always knew that Mike worked very hard doing these kinds of presentations as he multitasks. I'm getting a feel for it. Boy, that's something. Geraldine, can I put up Windows NT 3.x on Raspberry Pi? No. Raspberry Pi operates on an ARM chip, and of course, Windows, most versions of Windows are designed to run on Intel AMD chips. Microsoft does create a little version of Windows that's a super tiny compact version, and it's for the Raspberry Pi, but its sole purpose in life is just to run IoT things. So we get an IoT application that was written specifically for Windows IoT to run on a Pi, and it's all very kind of integrated environment. When I'm looking at this thing, and I guess I got to apologize looking at the background. I didn't say anything up here. It was quick, stick a camera in front of your computer and off we go. So what is my favorite way to learn and retain information? Books, videos, flashcards, and practice exams. All right, PvP boy. And I saw you're in the UK. Let me give you kind of a conglomerate. I'll give you a little bit about me and then what we at Total Seminars kind of look at as a philosophy. So favorite way to learn, that's not even a fair question. There are visual learners out there. For those folks, video lectures, things like that are obviously a best case. There are those hands-on learners. Take your combination of video courses, book courses, and try everything that you see, try everything that you read about, do a little research maybe above and beyond to find out just how dangerous it can be. But you get the idea. And then, of course, there's folks who are just way prefer reading. Michael Smyer is on here. He prefers to read, but not from a book. He prefers streaming textual content and gets very bored. I'm sure if he's watching this right now, he's already hanging himself. Sorry, Michael. And then as for myself, I'm kind of a both. I like videos when I need information right now. Boom, slam. Here, how to change the carburetor in your 1935 Model T. And I don't want a whole bunch of background in there. First, you've got to get a wrench. And let's talk about the sizes of wrenches that existed in 1923. I want to know boom, boom, boom. I don't want to see that background. Hi, welcome to another episode of This Is How You... Ugh, that just drives me nuts. I like what Mike does. I work with Mike in helping making these videos. And he is very fact-based. Let's get to the meat. And if there needs to be some background information, he provides it. Now, if you need more depth and more background, that's when you head for the books. Again, if you use ours as kind of a combination of products, doesn't matter what order you do them in. Watch the videos for the highlights, just the facts, ma'am, kind of thing, and then get into the books for depth and breadth and detail. Or do it the other way around. Get all that depth and breadth and start to get a handle on it, and then head for the videos and get the highlights. Know what I'm saying? Also, you mentioned my favorite of all items, flashcards. Yes, there are things that you just have to memorize. It's horrible, it's painful, and sometimes, hopefully many times, you use it in the real world, and that memorization stuff becomes practical, and it begins to ingrain. But until then, you got to memorize this stuff. And for me, electronic flashcards, and I'm old, you can kind of tell by the pretty brown beard. Hope it's coming across brown as you're looking at it. But give me a handwritten flashcard. I want a word on one side or an acronym, and I want facts and explanations on the other side. And I build those every day as I'm studying and learning more material. Hope that helps. Okay, work email. Scott has posted that. Thank you, Scott. DaveR@TotalSem.com. So you can get in touch with me either way. People are doing that. I'm watching my personal email box just begin to expand. Thank you. I will answer what I can, get with Mike and see what we can answer together. And hopefully we won't have to do this again, but it's a lot of fun for everybody. Raspberry Pi fan, what's your thoughts on Pi holes? Well, if I could spin my camera around, you would see my Pi hole running on my desk over there. Huge, big fan. I just cannot stand advertisements coming through my streams. And Pi-hole, for those you're not familiar with it, that's what it does. It becomes sort of an inline proxy or an inbound proxy. It grabs all of the inbound data that's coming through your ISP connection and filters out much of the advertisements on the way in. There's pre-built lists. You can add your own lists. And I think they're wonderful. And it's a very low overhead application. So you can manage dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of computers. It's customizable on a per computer basis in an office on one of the low power older Pis. Okay. And that's the challenge Mike always runs to. Got to slide up and down and find questions. Geraldine, it was a small project I was trying to figure out for my MSP. Okay. You're very welcome. Tillowit, does Total Seminars do tours of their global headquarters? It's not kind of an organized thing. The facility is huge. We probably have around 700,000 square feet. We take up about 4 city blocks. And the safety features and the hazmat materials that we have in there, the government contract materials require you to have at least a secret security clearance, if not top secret. Classified won't get you in. No, it's a lovely suite of offices. We got a pile of people, but if you were to come in and tour the place, what you see, except for the studios operating, is lots of people sitting at computers, typing and reading and getting together in hallways and comparing notes. And then, of course, back when the real action place these days, the studio, that's just a hoot. They're either full bore, they've got mic shooting, or we bring in a guest lecturer to do a specialty course. Excuse me. And then when the studio isn't actually got cameras rolling, we've got a couple of folks in there who are setting up for the next things. And then again, everybody involved in the game, the director, the producer, the tech experts, and so everybody goes charging back to their desk and they start dealing with whatever's just been shot. So yeah, it's interesting for a few minutes, or maybe even kind of a front to back. We did bring in a gent. Hopefully someday you guys will see it on the YouTube feeds. The gent who won was the millionth recipient of A+ certification. CompTIA and us brought him in for a couple of days, and one of the days we did a wonderful time travel shoot with him. Do check that out on the channel sometime. It's a hoot. But no, tours, call Mike. He may very well say, hey, look, if you're in town, come on in. We'll have a cup of coffee. I'll show you around the office, and then maybe you get lucky and he'll take you down to NASA. I've seen him do that. Let's see, Andre de Goyert. I'm visual and hands-on learner. Books, not so much. ADHD, sure. And again, so there's all kinds of learners out there. I think I ran into somebody recently who says they watch the videos during daytime between breaks at work or when they get home from work, and then they curl up with a good Mike Myers book in bed until they fall asleep, which doesn't happen. That makes them a total insomniac because the books are so interesting, fascinating, and exciting. Hello, where we go? Let's leave that up already. Oh, hi, Eric. Okay, I got your message then. I hope you're starting to work on that NAS project. That thing's a lot of fun. What I realized when I did my first one is it was a cool experiment and it was underdone. I used much too small of a storage media. And so not long after I built that first one, I had to scrap it and say, all right, now let's do it again with bigger media. So think big in the beginning, get 128 gig or a 256 gig flash drive. Eric is working on building a NAS out of a Raspberry Pi. How do I get your books in South Africa? I want to write my A+ as beginner. Well, Nintendo, I don't have the answer to that. I do know that we don't ship out of our warehouses out of the country. The challenges are enormous. The taxes are horrible for the purchaser. That's no good. So next best bet is to check what Amazon is carrying in your particular country. They carry all of our books. They don't charge any more than we do for them, or we don't charge any more than they do. I'm not sure how that works. Not my neck of the world. But send a message to Kathy Y. Scott will probably put that up for you when we're not looking. Kathy Y at TotalSem.com. She may have some insight for you. I like this man already. I like to read and make margin notes. Oh, yeah. Hey, if you're not yellow highlighting, something's wrong. Depth and breadth. There you go. And I made bunches of flashcards. Good. We are of a mindset here. DDP boy, voice. That's nice. You're very welcome for the answer. Mention books. What's the difference between Passport, 7th edition, all-in-one exam guide edition? Okay, so you got two questions there. 7th edition is old. It's the 7th edition. Scott, correct me if I'm wrong on that. Maybe we started Passport later than we did AIO. But let me give you the general difference between our Passport books and our all-in-ones. The all-in-ones are the big book. If you go out right now and pick up A+ all-in-one, it's 1,200 or 1,300 pages. Tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of information for everyone. If you know nothing about this business, about this certification that you decided to pursue, and Mike would say, why have you decided to pursue it if you don't know anything about it? But not my issue right now. I want you to buy books. But it's got everything in there. There is no official prerequisite for pursuing A+ certification from CompTIA. However, if you had your hands on a computer for a year or two, if you've typed it, if you've used it, if you've seen an error message, that's experience that helps toward your A+. But if you don't have any of that, then we try to augment that with the book. It's all there. So I can't put 2 years of experience in your hands by reading the book, but I can put a year and a quarter. How's that? Passbook, on the other hand, is for somebody who's been in the business for a year or two and has a great deal of experience and is looking for just the facts, ma'am, and maybe some emphasis on things that that person doesn't do every single day, and maybe hasn't done ever since they've started playing the arena because it's just not part of their bailiwick or the bailiwick where they're interning or whatever. So you get Passport, you fill in the gaps that you already, or I guess that you don't already know, and then you test from that. Excuse me. Okay, hope that helps. He's totally making that up. I am not. It's a huge, gigantic facility. It's 35 stories tall. Okay, so that's my reputation at the office. I take very few things seriously. I had a TCSCI, so you're good. Okay, way to go, man. Let's see. Ask questions. Dave has crazy levels of knowledge. Well, Dave is crazy. Let's go with that. And we'll talk about knowledge. Hey, David. Nice to see you. Dr. Quinn, there you are. Nice to see you, too. It's been... Oh, okay. Yeah, I may have appeared in a video or two. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to pat my own back for my appearance in this because I don't care. But absolutely one of our best videos perhaps ever. It's again available on the YouTube channel. Is the Social Engineering Zone. We shot that one in kind of a what's the Rod Serling show? Somebody will let me know. Twilight Zone. And we did that very Twilight Zone-esque, and I've got a part in that and a couple of the other ones, but not my bailiwick. I'm not an actor. I just play one on TV. Come on, that is the best freaking line ever. I've been using that forever, and nobody's picking it up, okay? I'm not an actor, but I play one on TV. So I expect that to get used and picked up now that we're doing this game. Tillowit talking to Scott. You knew I was goofing. You no way. I did that straight-faced. Is there a great site for flashcards? Yes. We have a pile of products. Some of you know the Udemy products. Some of you know the Lynda products. And we have a number of others. And there's one, and I don't know how well known it is. So I'm going to go it's related to Certiport. And everybody on there uses this one flashcard site that does not come to mind. So I'm going to throw that out. Anybody who's got good online or electronic flashcard sites, thoughts, recommendations, toss that out to, I'm going to call it C Man. I think it stands for something else. I think you may be a corporal, but I could be wrong. Okay, Kathy Yale for Nintendo. Hi there, David. Oh, yeah, down the road. We've talked about you a number of times, David. So you're fairly close. If anybody gets a tour, you probably ought to be the one. Give Mike a call or an email sometime. All the emails that he posts up right now, I don't know which ones. Chase him down at Desweds, or Scott will put his email up. And that would be kind of a cool thing. See if you can get a little quickie visit with Mike, and then report back to everybody what you think of the gigantic facilities and the ore processors that we have and the generators. Okay, Scott says Passport 7th edition is the latest edition. So the same content in them generally, but one is just absolutely boiled down, compressed zip turned into a tar file or a RAR file. You get the idea. 1,524 pages, including the index. And you will be tested on the index. So make sure you memorize that. Oh. Corporal Bot, A+ Passport 7th edition, and it's the newest. Very good. Thank you, sir. Geraldine, I would like to know more about a breakdown regarding AX. I have a weak background. Oh, wow. Okay. So let's do a little bit on that. I'm not going to tear it up hugely here because I know that Mike wants to talk about it in a presentation. So 802.11ax, the latest and greatest, right? We're all using AC, and we're starting to hear about this 802.11ax. And a couple things about that. The Wi-Fi Alliance, they're the people who are responsible for standardizing 802.11 Wi-Fi. They trademark the name Wi-Fi and so forth. And for whatever reason, they have become tired of calling it by their 802.11 names, and they've given them marketing names. So we now have Wi-Fi 4 and Wi-Fi 5, and now this new one, 802.11ax, is Wi-Fi 6. Now, Wi-Fi 6, you'll see that when you see Mike back up on presentation, look over his left-hand shoulder, I guess right hand, depending on how you're looking at him, and you'll see that new WAP that he's got that's got 8 antennas on it. It looks like an upside down octopus is really kind of cool. And here's the deal with the game. Is it faster than 802.11 AC? Maybe. At its core, each guts level transmitter, not. However, because of its bonding capabilities, it can bond together 2, 4, and in certain circumstances, when the moon aligns with Jupiter, you can bond together 8 20 megahertz channels, getting 160 megahertz potential throughput. There's a lot of ifs, ands, ors, or buts about that. And Mike has again talked a little bit about this. What its goal in life is all about is efficiency. It wants to take as many communications channels as are happening out there. Here's a WAP that's talking to me. Here's a WAP that's talking to Scott. Here's a WAP that's talking to PVPVoy and so forth. And find ways to get them all happening simultaneously. Maybe it does it with me with a transmitter and antenna that are dedicated just to my communication. And likewise, there's another transmitter in there and an antenna that's devoted to working with PVPVoy. Or it uses those transmitters, bonds their powers together, bonds the powers of the antennas together, and says, I'll talk to you all simultaneously. Well, not exactly simultaneously, kind of in turn sequentially, but I can do it really, 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 really fast with all this extra bandwidth to work with. So it's a new standard. We've got a long way to go with it. WAPs are out there. Interestingly, and I think probably, well, let's just go with interestingly, less commonly, NICs are out there. You do not see nearly as many network interface card AX offerings as you do WAPs. And of course, we're waiting to see these things appear. Excuse me. I don't talk this much when I do a stand-up class. It's killing me just to keep racking like this. And by the way, Scott, I have no clock around here. So give me a zing sometime. Let me know what I'm doing. There I go. Okay, it's 3 o'clock or just about. So we're all right. Excuse me. So we need to see more products. Oh, hey, look at that. We need to see more products with the whole environment. We got to see laptops with them. We want to see the wireless interfaces on peripherals like printers. Now, do you need 160 megahertz bandwidth to send a job to an inkjet printer? Probably not, but you get the idea. Okay, Scott is communicating me through other channels, and I didn't have that set up. There we go. Let me see what he's saying. Oh, yeah, just a reminder. Yeah, Mike always does this at the beginning. I did not do that. Thank you. So just because not only were you kind enough to go to Mike's AMA, but so many of you shifted over here, he, of course, has a special offer just for you. And it really is. We're not advertising this code anywhere else out there. It just gets advertised here on this chat. So what is that? Oh, that was me. We have on special this week, and this week only, the deal changes week to week, 50% off Total Seminars A+ and Network Plus Total Tester Practice Test and Total Sims simulations. I got to talk about the simulations. I have been involved with them since the beginning. I did some of the very earliest ones, and then we got people who knew what they were doing in and have done them a million times better. But we've got simulations out there in 4 different flavors. Now, we don't exactly match what's on CompTIA. If we did, and if we even knew that stuff, it would be a violation of the NDA. But what we've done is we've created 4 kinds of simulations. One of them is just so cool. Michael Smyer totally did this 100% on his own. He created a command line. It's not a sandbox, but we call it a sandbox. So when you open this thing up, you're in kind of a command line window, and we have questions and problems and solutions where you run the appropriate commands in there. They'll give you a choice of 2 or 3 or 4 commands. You run the right one and you get the right results, and then you get to go back and answer the question. We have one in there that is just a free-for-all. All the commands that Michael wrote, the very common ones that we'll all run into on the exam, are in there just for you to experiment with. You can experiment with them in your own command line environment, but there are things that you could do that would make your computer scream and cold chills run down your spine. You can't hurt this thing. It's great. Then we have some video simulations, which are just kind of little training episodes, step by step. Hey, somebody wants to do something. A user wants to change the size of his partition. and we talk you through that. And then we have another one that's very similar to that, except it's a click and go. So, hey, the thing you just did, now we're going to walk you through it so you can click on all the right things. And I got to tell you, some of them are so, let me use the word useful and not go any further than that. But I'm here to tell you that if you're going to go and take a CompTIA test and you take some of these, you're going to say, man, I am so glad I played with those sims. And then our last sim type are kind of games and challenges, click and drag and matching and things like that. So look, cannot recommend this enough. 50 points off. How do you go wrong with that? So how do you do it? You go over to the Total Sim website, you chase down our products, and you use the code for this week, MMLive527. I'm doing it. Should be DR Live, right? No, it's still Mike. So Mike Myers Live, and Monday was 527. Hey, got that figured out? I knew you would. Okay, I'm doing the mic thing. I'm doing really long answers for simple questions. So let me catch up here. Tolowit, most early tech knowledge came from breaking something. That is so true. You get the nerds like the four of us who are messing around on here all the time from Total Sim and lots of you guys. How did we learn this stuff? We learned it because we broke stuff. And mom was going to kill us if we didn't get it fixed. And then later on, it sort of became an avocation. And for some of us, further on to become a vocation. Totally with you, Tolowit. Brendan, what is the best way to check if a third-party app is safe to download? Okay, downloading in and of itself is not stunningly unsafe. You download an exe unless there is something that triggers its launch. Now, somebody's going to argue with me on this because of that one time, that one thing that happened. Okay, fine, but that's an edge case, and the exception just validates the rule. So downloading in and of itself, not the worst thing you can do. I do it regularly. And then use your favorite trusted scanner. Item next, there are some sites that are cool enough that say, look, we have run a hash on this thing when we posted it and when it was safe. A hash is kind of like a serial number, a fingerprint on it. It's a long number with numbers and characters in it. And there are different sizes of them, and cool. So what you do is you copy and paste their hash value, save that on your computer somewhere. You download the thing in question, and then you download a hash generator. And you can even do this online. Feed this to an online hash generator that uses the same hash 56 or 256 or whatever it is, and it will generate a hash number on the thing that you've just downloaded. And if the hashes match, then you have downloaded something that has not been tampered with. Now, if when it was posted, it was already viral, you're potentially screwed, again, unless your antivirus, anti-malware software has checked it out. And then, of course, the other common advice, get it from the original source. If you are looking for a copy of CPU-Z and you go Google download CPU-Z and it sends you to download.com, not the worst site ever, cnet.com, or downloadcoolthingshere.com, you know, you ought to be a little panicky. You want to head over to the author site, cpuid.com. So, you know, there's always reviews too, but that's the best way I know how to be safe. Anybody else got any ideas? Throw them in. Hope it's not too much. Welcome. Edward Falble, Quizlet is okay. There you go. That was one of the ones that is a very high regard on that other place that I'm playing. Good. Quizlet for flashcards. Just a relative noob. I'm not buying that. Okay, so this is for Mike too. David, thank you. Oh, so I got the memory of a gnat. Whatever I just said and took 20 minutes to say, as soon as I move on to the next question, I forgot it. So I'm reading your line here. I would love that. I did manage to play it back and say, oh yeah, you love the tour. But for everybody else, if you're going to reference a previous post or something like that, put a little something in there to remind me or Mike what we were talking about, so it just doesn't turn into some editorial comment right in the middle of this goo of commentary. Thanks. Operated an oil platform industry government body that's codified oil processing, codified alphabet soup of ratings. Sure, of course. You mess with the government, you're going to get into TLA land, which is a cool land, 3-letter acronym. And then the double department, FLA, for both 4-letter acronyms and 5-letter acronyms. Mike Myers, official email. Thank you. For contacting Mike, arrange a tour, ask him a question. Hey, Mike loves to receive your emails with your questions. It does all kinds of things to him, gets his juices going. He researches answers. He knows answers. He kind of pre-writes them up to talk about in here. He will answer you back directly. Write Mike. Anything. Hey, how you doing? How'd you pass your test? How does a 32-geared Franistat with a left-handed Fetzer valve work? He loves that stuff. Poor Dave. No one has ever said that to or about me. No clock. Keep teaching. Thanks, man. Is there a governing body specific organization to give rhyme and reason to codification of asset tags? Probably. It exists in every other freaking industry out there. Cannot say that I've ever run into anything specific to the computer world, but sounds like an opportunity to practice Google foo. Maybe Michael Smyer or Scott Jernigan will take a look at that. Coding of asset tags for computers, something like that. Simulations are great. Thank you, Corporal. Forgive me for calling you that. I latched onto that the other day when we were talking about, okay, word from on high is neither of the guys has any info on codification or classifications of asset tags, at least in this world. Totally recall his voice now that you mentioned it. Yeah, I know. I got kind of a nasal voice. So don't think poor Dave. Think poor Dave's wife. He has to listen. She has to listen to all this. It's a she. Not that there's anything wrong with anything else. My first PC, I deleted the operating system within the first day. I never heard that story. God, and definitely would like to hear that one. Andre's first PC was used, and within a few days, the hard drive had crashed. So it was time to learn how to change. You're right. And reinstall 98 SE, 95 SE. Oh, I have stories about 95 someday if I ever get a chance to do this again. Scott's loving what Andre's got to say. Go, man. I've been sent out on jobs to install hard drives in different style laptops and relied on YouTube. You're exactly right. So there is just no such thing as standardization in laptops. Some of them a few years ago, mercifully, were very simple when it came to changing out 2 and maybe 3 items. Hard drives. They had a side caddy, or they had one little simple cover on the bottom. You unscrew 4 or 6 screws, pop that cover off, and then you'd have to slide the little hard drive out of its connector and carrier, lift it out, slap the other one in, cover up, done. Same thing happened on the old side caddies. RAM, same thing. A little door. Once you got the door open, they either used a mini DDR, DDR2, DDR3 port, and then some of them, they had proprietary ports. Everybody is standardized today. And now, good news, there is one more common piece of equipment that gets swapped in and out, and that's M.2 drives. And folks, if you're getting new computers and you're not playing in the M.2 world, you are seriously missing this. This is even true on that old desktop that you have. If it's got a PCIe port, get yourself an adapter, a slot adapter with an M2 connector, especially NVMe support, because it will just turn your computer brand spanking new for a couple of years. And then, of course, get a bigger one in a year or two. However, back to the original point, today, to get into a laptop and change anything anymore is a nightmare. The laptop that I'm working on in front of me here right now has 14 back cover screws. And once you get that off, then you got to start undoing plates and covers. And just like C. Plasman says, you got to dig up a YouTube video that's fairly close or exactly right for your specific make and model to how to dismember those things. And it can be a real challenge to find. What's the most important thing? Anytime you're taking a laptop, you don't even have to know how to do it. You can figure it out eventually, but you have got to track what screws came out of where, and you have to keep them separated. You can't put them in a pile. an egg carton is a great way to go. Somebody once recommended a really good suggestion. I thought take a curl up of your favorite kind of tape, duct tape, masking, whatever, and curl it up so that it's sticky side out, and put that down in a nice row along your table, and then tack your things that you remove out of there in order. You get the idea. Okay. I see a fun question I want to answer. Let me go back and see what I've missed. Okay, so servicing laser printers, CP Lastman. Yeah, so good news with that. It's a lifestyle. It's a job. It's a technical skill that you have to learn. It's not something that we learn in A+, and certainly not in Net+, except for, you know, how to plug in the network cable correctly, or maybe make some TCP/IP settings. My one quickie story about that, gazillion years ago, failed laser printer. And there's Corona wires in there, tightly stretched wires that Mike has talked about this. Will set a charge on a various aspect inside there, a minus 600 volts or a plus 400 or whatever the case may be. And one of those wires had failed. So in comes a technician, nice young lady, just packed with tools and things like that. And she looks at it and sniffs it for a second or two and says, yeah, there's your problem. Your primary Corona's failed. And she opens this and whips open that somewhere. I think she might have even unplugged it and pulled out this assembly with a broken Corona wire in there, strung up a new one. It's a real simple thing to do, but she had to get the tension right. And she whips out a tuning fork and ding, and ding, you get the idea. That was just the coolest thing I may have ever seen. Doesn't happen anymore. They are so cheap and so easy just to replace the unit now. They don't fix a broken Corona wire. It's all pre-assembled assembly. But good Lord, that was cool. Notification. If you're familiar with Comodo antivirus firewall internet security, have you tried it? Okay. What I know about Comodo is we use it. How's them apples? We have Comodo certificate or certificates in some of our web products and things like that. Michael Smyer is the utter guru on that. I have kind of watched over his shoulder as he's played with it. So I guess of your list there, the only thing that I even have passing familiarity with is internet security. What I know about it is some of the reasons that he's explained why we use it instead of others. And there's a myriad of reasons. There are times that you want a certificate from a big brand name company, Computer Associates or something, some things like that. Comodo is a well-respected certificate authority. And so if you install that in your own personal website, try to look into the camera when you're responding. Man, I have a director. Thank you, Scott. You're exactly right. I'm looking over and reading all the other input here as we go. Comodo, again, is a well-respected certificate authority. So we have installed that as certificate in some of our other neck of the woods. As far as their other product offerings, cannot speak to them. If Michael or Scott throws something up here in the feed, or if they put it directly in the chat line, afraid that's the best I've got. Mike will definitely be able to expound further. What was your path into IT? Jobs you got? Okay. My background is a couple undergrad degrees, one in physics and one in electrical engineering. I moved out of college into restaurant management. Yes, I was a Wendy's manager. I'm from the upper Midwest, and there wasn't a lot of tech work, and I was afraid to leave my neck of the woods, so I joined the fast food fray. Well, that got old pretty fast, and they eventually moved me over to the East Coast where there was tech work. So I signed on with a company who was making computers, clones, in the very, very earliest days of clones, back when we used CPUs called 80286s. And I was on the design team at some point, and then eventually the lead as motherboard designer. That sounds really woo, and it's not. You get chipsets from Intel, you get plans, you get help. We got plans and help on motherboard layout. So we were a little more than glorified assemblers, but not stunningly much more. From there, I was teaching a lot, our people, and teaching our customers. and I got an offer from a little company that some of you old timers will know, Novell, and I became a Novell networking instructor for them. Did that for many years. Came back and moved to Houston. Somewhere in there, I was out in LA for a couple of years. Moved to Houston and joined what was then Compaq, is now HP, and I became their international trainer for server products that ran Novell NetWare. And then they went through the 80s bust and they downsized, and I lost my job. And so I went right back to them and did exactly the same job for more money as a contractor, except less benefits, of course. And I was just working like crazy teaching NetWare. And so I blew up my little one-man company. I was a private pilot at the time. And so I had this great idea. I said I could get a whole cadre of people to help me out here. I had a plane, and I started hunting the flight schools for burnout flight instructors, because they had two of the three skills that we needed. They could fly, they could teach. So all we had to do was teach them the product line that we needed to go. And then when the call came in on Sunday night, our instructor is sick, can you get somebody here by morning? Yes, Fred, go take the plane and go to Poughkeepsie. And that business grew like crazy. And all the flight instructors, they got me through all my ratings. I eventually became airline transport pilot rated, and they would tell all their great stories about flying and things like that. So I got an instructor rating there, and I started doing flight instructing, and I'm getting more and more time, and I'm flying a lot, doing the instruction. So I sold the company to them, all the other instructors, and I went off and became an airline pilot. And I did that for a number of years, did charter pilot in the beginning. And then I joined a wholly owned subsidiary of US Air and went to US Air, and then came back here to Houston with Continental. And then the airline bust again. So it took about a year off to tune up my network teching skills, and saw Mike had an advertisement one day and said, holy crap, Total Seminars, Mike Myers is looking for instructors. And so I ran to his office, and there were 3 other people in line, and I stabbed them all. I want this job. You people have no chance. So we interviewed. It was a hellaciously fun interview. You interview with everybody, one-on-one with Scott and Mike and the other principals. And then, of course, when you're an instructor, you have to do a presentation. So, and it can't be about computers because I don't want to be bored. So I came in with a presentation on how the hydraulic system on a 757 works. And rest is history. And I've just been doing this with Total ever since. Sorry about that long one, but yeah, I'm trying to sell books too. I got side products. All right, back to business here. What's a practical use for a Pi learning for A+ or net? Okay, obviously legitimate and excellent question. And I love this and I do this. So I go and teach stand-up classes all the time, Net+, A+, rarely Sec+. And of course, in all of those things now, we have lots of networking products. And in order to play with networking, besides computer to computer pinging each other, I want to do something. I want to do an SSH session. I want to do an FTP session. Now that stuff's available, and we can have people install it on their computers. But if I got a Pi all set up that's ready to rock with half a dozen different server types, I plug that in, and everybody hits it, and we can Wireshark it, and we can do all of the interactive things with it. And it's really cool. They can wreck it all week long. I got a master copy of the whole thing is kept on a little micro SD card. So if they wipe it out during the day, at night, I do a fresh copy, spin it up. And of course, look, Pi was introduced, what, 9, 10, 11 years ago now, something like that. And it was $35, and it was a cheap little, and today, their biggest, bestest, bassest, baddest, modernest one is $35. You need a little bit more. You need a monitor. You need a keyboard. And then again, maybe you don't. They got a new couple of them that just came out that are super duper that for the first time aren't $35. But you got $35 and an HDMI cable and a keyboard, you're in biz. So they are just fantastic to drag along with you. And of course, the myriad, if you want to learn Linux, yeah, set up a virtual machine in your dedicated computer. I wouldn't have it any other way. But again, for portability, I want to drag a Unix box, a Linux box around with me. There's 10 different flavors of Linux that run on them, and it's just a fantastic way to learn without fear of breaking anything. Andrea needs some more money. You're right. You cannot build a good enough computer. When you're building your computer, it's always a trade-off. Performance, money, time. How long to get all these parts? Always end up with parts left over when I take it apart. Yeah, got to keep track of parts. Auto parts holders, sure. Magnetic works, that's fine. Don't be afraid of typical household magnets around a computer. Like Mike, we all work with government agencies with 3 letters and guns, and they tell us interesting and wonderful stories. Guy told me a story one time about a computer that was inspecting in a person's home and said, "Hey, would you mind if I took your hard drive?" And the guy was confident and said, "No, knock yourself out, but here, let me do something." So he pulls the hard drive out of his computer and he takes some household magnet and rubs it on top of it and says, "Here you go." And the agent didn't laugh in the guy's face. He didn't start laughing until he got out to his car. Not going to hurt anything. What's your recommendation for backing up data? External hard drive, uploading to something like Google Drive. Okay, so I share Mike's sentiments with this. They both have great value. What happens, of course, with an online one, and I think this is primary disadvantage, is you're going to back up to a cloud site at the slowest speed network link between your computer and the cloud. So if you've got a Wi-Fi link that's good for 15 megabits per second, that's how fast you're going to upload to the cloud site. Excuse me. And let's say, God forbid, that the big crash comes one day. So how do you recover? Well, you start by replacing your hard drive. You install a new copy of Windows in it. That's normal for both cases. And now you start the download process. Depending on how much you have up there and your link speed, you're looking at some serious time. A week, potentially a month. So for my purposes, I can't tolerate that kind of downtime without my data. I back up to a local external hard drive. They make great 4 terabyte external drives now, 1 or 2, whatever you've got in your computer, an image backup to an external hard drive. It's the longest type of backup. Mike did that presentation about 2 weeks ago on all the different strategies of backups. I do a full image backup about once a month or so. And if and when the big crash comes, install a new hard drive, maybe install a new OS, or maybe just use the backup software, third-party backup software that's got a little boot thumb, and say, "Hey, do your thing." And I go to bed, and in the morning, I'm ready to start working almost like nothing happened. What's your recommendation? Okay, PvP boy. I mean this on a personal level. I've been very personal, too much so. Moving on. Terrence Tech used to be removing CMOS battery. Not sure if that still works. I missed the first part of that, and I'm going to roll on. Sorry. Because I bet there's people who will argue over on. Of course there will. It's a holy war. So, jumper. Yes. Oh, okay. If I understand, you're talking about clearing CMOS discussion. You don't have to remove the battery for it. Laptops have a clear CMOS jumper, though you got to get into it pretty heavily, and it's probably easier to get the battery. Okay, I like that, Scott. I'll get there. And of course, all desktops, even today, the one that was made this morning at the Asus factory has a clear RTC jumper position on it still. Went from IT to culinary school. There you go. Man, you know what? And I know Mike has mentioned this too. You got big fans around here. A number of us are, I don't know if I'd call us foodies. We're not big eaters and tasters, present company accepted. But so many of us just love to cook. Yes, stock battery is a 2032. The CR is actually not a critical part of the label. They're 2032 batteries. And hey, do that sometime in some research. I'm not going to give you the answer right now, but go look up why it's called a 2032 and why there's a 2025 and a 2016. And suddenly, head blown, it will make sense to you. And you'll say, "Oh, I understand. Now I know why I'm getting that kind of battery." I am, wow. Okay, you're knocking me out, David. I am Gulfstream 250 rated. It was the last type rating that I got. I was teaching over at Flight Safety. So, no, never flown over the Triangle, but I'm not afraid to. I have no fears. Maybe some manufacturers say the password on the hardware. Okay, so Scott's posted a question. What's the best way to clear? Okay, yeah, that was it. So best way to clear BIOS password in a laptop. Pull the battery if you're pulling the battery, theoretically, you can get away with it in 30 seconds. I'm going to pull it for 10 minutes. There is a capacitor in there that holds a residual charge, and it does that just so you can pull a battery and have a couple of minutes to pop a new battery in without having to change all of the defaults that suddenly pop back in. So we need that capacitor to fully discharge, and that doesn't take too long, 5-10 minutes. Otherwise, the clear RTC. Hydraulics. So thanks for the, yeah, I had a lot of fun with that hydraulics presentation. And Mike was, he played the student who, but what if, and how does this work? And that was just almost fun. Oh, thank you, Dr. Quinn. I have a friend whose brother would pull coil wire off of his car and hide it somewhere semi-obvious just to toy with. Okay, in fact, do that. Any of you who teach, and again, if there's any teachers here actively teaching a class, we know you're all in the same boat. We're trying to teach from home. We're trying to teach remotely. Get in touch with Kathy Yale here. She has goodies for you. She wants to get into your fray and help you out. Again, Scott will probably throw that up again in a few moments. Kathy Y at, where are we at? TotalSem. Yeah, TotalSem.com. And if you're not a teacher and you try and contact Kathy and say, I'm a teacher and I have a class, she knows. Okay, don't try to fool her. She's got your number. So teaching classes is a really cool thing, especially when we're teaching like an A+ class and have some troubleshooting. After we're a day or two into it, we have learned so much of hardware components and software components that before people come into my class on day 2 or day 3, I go and put 2 or 3 bugs into the computer systems that they built. And there's exercise number 1. And then at the end of the day, I throw everybody out except one team. And okay, you go to their machine and bug it. Nothing dangerous, nothing deadly, nothing permanent. And do that. And then the next morning, everybody comes in and again, starts debugging computers. And we do that every day as a lab. If you're an instructor and you're not doing something like that, your kids are missing out. Your students, some of them are adults. Some of them are adults who are more like kids. We know that. It's okay. I have friends like that. Can we really call them friends if they're hiding things from us? Mr. Rush knows his stuff, or at least he wings it pretty well, huh? Please, I've been trying to get my wife to call me Mr. Rush for 35 years. No soap, so nobody else should. Thank you, Tolowit. Honestly, I love to see those hydraulics presentation for fun. I still have the slides. I may find a way to disseminate them. Thank you, David. Oh, ship. I thought it was a beautiful slip too myself. Beautiful sip. Okay, is there any downside to putting some data I won't likely look at for years on an HDD and putting it in a box somewhere? It won't decay, I assume. Okay, heck of a question, and I speak to that one. Forgive me for turning around here and yelling in echo. There we go. So I am what you might call a hoarder. People at the office will never believe that, but it's true. So this is a drive from a Sony Vaio laptop that I had so many years ago. It's 30 gigabytes. No reason that I can't destroy this thing on that. Anything that's on there, I don't want anymore. And I believe that I got everything off there that I wanted. And this is Texas Country. I have a pile of hardware that sometimes it's just time to get rid of and do one of 2 things with it, and usually both. This is Texas. We are well armed down here, and I will take something like this to the range, and that's a lot of fun. And then after that, take it to the recycle place. Well, I have a hard drive in that stack up there that's like this, and I thought, maybe there's this one thing I need off of there. I went, I'll plug it into an enclosure and pull it off, and it said, squeal! And that was the last thing it said. So the data does not decay. However, the motor bearings there is some microscopic amount of moisture in here, and there are steel in there, and you can lose functionality. So yeah, if you're going to pull a hard drive and put it into potential storage, I don't know what to tell you here. Pull it out regularly and move the data to another drive that you're willing to put into storage. Maybe the best thing, this being the 21st century and all, is to take that kind of a data and store that in the cloud. We have reason to believe that those cloud storage facilities do a nice job of maintaining reliability and recoverability. Just a thought. Anybody else got any ideas? Throw them out there. Free access for teachers, says Scott, because Scott is right. Okay. CR, also known as lithium round. Okay. That's the CR part. And there's other double letters for that. I'm curious there we go. Andre de Goyert tells us that a 2032 is 20 millimeters across and 3.2 millimeters thick. Okay. So if I were Mike and I were throwing a contest, I would say, first one to tell me what a CR 2016 dimensions are gets a free 757. But I'm not going to do that, but you get the idea. You know the formula. In the IEC system, larger cells may have no prefix. That's exactly true. These are for coin cell type batteries. And also even some of the really tiny ones, the hearing aid batteries, those are too small. They don't have the same kind of nomenclature. Have I ever used GNS3? Yes. You gonna make me expound on it? No, I got a feeling I used it once or twice when the topic came up, and frankly, I don't remember what the heck it even is. Sorry about that. Yeah, show the hydraulics. Not here, but it would be a fun thing to do. Maybe Mike someday will let me do an off-topic AMA. Anything you want to talk about that's weird? How'd you get into culinary school? And what can you tell us about that? That'd be kind of an interesting little get-together. You guys are an eclectic group with an incredibly wide breadth of skill sets and stories and experience. It might be really an interesting thing to do for even one of you guys to host a session. Let's all just get together and shoot the breeze. Good presentation. I used to work on hydraulic actuators. I used to throw levers that worked on hydraulic actuators. Okay, I see you typing, Scott. Techies are hoarders. Yes, we are. Oh, okay, GNS3, the open source network simulator. Thank you. Yes, I have messed with it at some point, actually extensively. Terrific in a Security Plus environment, has some value in a Net Plus environment. I like for Net Plus, if you're going to build a lab, get your hands on, plug in switches, plug in routers, play with them. When you're configuring GNS3, it's drag and drop menus and not a lot of the kinds of handsy-on techie things. If you want to build a simulated network environment to do testing on the environment, something like GNS is a great tool. Thank you, Scott. You have your original Win95 disk. Well, I guess I could send you an XP disk or my Win31 that ran on DOS. Yeah, very cool. Nothing like again, someday get with me and ask me my Win95 story. It takes as long as that background story, so I'm not going to bore anybody, but it's a really fun story. I don't have a couple of boxes of cables, chargers, connectors, and such. Yeah, we all do. Who are you kidding? My first exit, okay. To the range, to the farm. Go, man, go. How much gun for 300? Doesn't take much. Yeah, you can poke. You won't poke through 2 platters with a 22. You will get most of the way through with a 9, and a 223 goes through a few of them. Burn stuff. Yahoo. Okay. Tulowitz says you can burn stuff to data, CD, DVD. Yes. And I think I would have taken that on faith a few years ago. And then again, one of those nice 3-letter agencies is still going through a process right now of trying to find ways to archive reliably evidence, computer data evidence. And their target for, even to this date, is optical media. They have yet to find optical media that meets their planned criteria. I think I'm pulling a number out of my head, but it's got to be good for 25 years and or longer. So there are specific companies that make optical media like Raya Data and so forth that are trying to create optical media that will have that kind of longevity. I don't know how long you're planning on storing or recovering your archives, but speaking for myself, I want to hand mine down to my great grandchildren. And if everything works out right, I'm going to do it in person, but I'm going to need some media to save that on. I thought you had a different idea, Tulawit. I thought we were talking about how to destroy equipment. I saw that first sentence. You can burn stuff. Yeah, that's almost as good as taking stuff to the range. I want that boring company, not a flamethrower. Am I related to the beautiful and powerful voice Jennifer Rush? Sadly, no. I do have famous relatives someday. Yeah, I tell you what, I'll let you look one up. She's a lot of fun. Her stage name at that time, Pamela Stonebrook. That would be my cousin. That's why your attic is full. That's not why your attic is full, Andre. That's why your ceiling is sagging. Just accepted into NPower Texas Cybersecurity course. Congratulations. Very popular and very practical. I was so angry at 95 PC. Was told it would hold an encyclopedia worth of. Yeah, that was that product from Microsoft. I was out schlepping that one time as a sales engineer. They had this encyclopedia with 5 different categories of encyclopedic stuff. And that came out when CD-ROM readers first came out. And we would drag this thing around. I was with a sales guy. I was the sales engineer, which meant the sales guy would meet with a distributor or customer or whatever and lie about all the cool things this CD-ROM reader would do. And then my job was to hang out afterward and tell the truth. But one of the things that we did in those early optical days is we would take this CD, pop it in, show them this cool Microsoft product, then take it out, flop it over, and take a knife and go all over it. You could see the scratches and how horrible, and stick it back in, and there was all the data. So it's to this day, optical drive is very cool, very tolerant to scratches on the side that doesn't have the label. There's a research project for you. That unlabeled side is much shallower. You start carving into that and your data, or the labeled side, much shallower, and can very easily wipe out your data. Black powder. I love 4570. There we go. Pamela Stonebrook. I think it would be cool, a cool episode, says Edward Fowle. Having these folks sanitize some hard drives at the range. I may have gone down a road I shouldn't have. Take all that away. Yes, my cousin, the jazz singer. Maybe some misbehaving printers. You know, if it don't move, I think it's fair game for a trip to the range. Hey, running low on questions. It's 20 minutes till. We'll see if that spurs a few visits. And once things start to slow down, we'll do some closing stuff, a little reminder on how to save some money, how to talk to Kathy. Okay, it's all blasting. My cousin, yes, I read that. Maybe some. Okay, now I'm caught up. Tulawit is next. If I remember correctly, at Linus Sebastian's of LTT annual convention, they have a throwing competition. I'm not familiar. That'll give me something to look up. That sounds fun. You know what? You want to get something cool going on with a throwing competition. Get with Mike and get with Scott. They and some of the other folks in the company, we all have these wacky little side hobbies. Besides Scott being just an unbelievable musician and singer, he is the SCA guy, and so is Mike. Scott typically goes to war twice a year in Pennsylvania and Mississippi, and there he goes. He said it. That's what I'm doing. The one word comes to mind: trebuchet. And I got to tell you that Mike has a massive monster trebuchet. He lives in a townhouse in a very gentrified lovely part of Houston, and how he managed to keep it in his garage without his neighbors murdering him has been something of a story. But he has a very good friend with some space, and just last summer they moved it on down there. He won't let us use it here in town. It's too big and it's too far and it's too dangerous. So they've dragged it out into fields of great distance and hurled things. So I'll bet if you look up, I've never tried this, but I'll bet if you look up Mike Myers and Trebuchet, you're very likely to find something. And Scott reminds me, SCA, I can't just throw acronyms out there without explaining them. The Society for Creative Anachronism, people whose brains are in a different time zone than ours. They still live in medieval England and drink mead and wear wonderfully, well, the women wear wonderful belly dancer clothes, and some of them are more fully dressed. And Scott, well, you know, he goes back a little further than medievalism. He goes back to pre-troglodyte days. You'll see him running around in a thong in a club. But for the rest of them, let's see, let me slide that back a little bit. Skeeting, absolutely. Serious options for sanitizing a hard drive. Yeah. Well, without getting political, there is great software out there. And if we all know of the big name, or one of the very big names by now, and that's BleachBit. There are zillions of drive wiper software packages out there. A single pass with one of these things, they're going to rewrite each sector with some pattern of ones and zeros. And I am told by those people with the appropriate powerful equipment, they can still extract data after a pass or two like that. And there's this thing buried somewhere in there called Gutman passes. And the old standard used to be 30 or 37 Gutman passes. And they probably exist. And Gutman passes are just a series of different ones and zero patterns. Excuse me. Here's a lovely sip. See, Dave? But again, there's tons and tons of third-party data wiper software. I've been using a software package for all kinds of disk management things like resizing unusual partitions and things like that from a company called Ease US, all one word, EASEUS. And they have everything. I have not played with a data wiper from them. It would not surprise me if they had one. And just based on the positive experiences that I've had with them, probably a good product. But if anybody's got any great ideas on software sanitizing, throw them up there. Now, you want to sanitize a hard drive and make it reusable. It's doable. You need a massive monster magnet, a big degaussing magnet. It's a big circular monster. It uses tons and tons and tons and tons of current, and you pass it through there. It's going to scramble the data. Nobody's going to be able to get anything off of that. It may do enough damage to what's called the servo platter that you will lose the magnetic signatures that define the tracks and sectors. And so the drive may turn out to be totally useless after that. But again, that may very well be the point. So you want to wipe your data, you got to wipe it. Now, that's a way. And maybe in theory, you could get some stuff off of that. I doubt it, but it's okay. It's possible. Now, people ask all the time in some of our other worlds, can I drill it? Yes, you can drill it. I can get a lot of data. With my very low equipment list and relatively small skill set in that arena, I can pull data off of that. So no, not a good solution. Sledgehammer's a better solution. Look online at the videos for metal crushers, the kinds of these big cam gears that do this. They grab stuff in there and they shred it. And they've got hard drive ones that are designed to shred your hard drive unit down into 3/8 chunks. I actually have a pile of 3 of them crushed up in my garage. I'm not going to get up and go get it right now, but I'll put that in Mike's hands. He can demo that to you. I certainly recall, the Intellivision, the Commodore 64. I had a Commodore VIC-20. My first computer was the Radio Shack TRS-80 with 16K of RAM, though I upgraded it ultimately to 64K, black and white, built-in basic. What do you think makes a good trainer or teacher? Okay. Well, as we all know, those who can do and the rest of us teach. So you got to have somebody who can. I'm kidding. You got to know your stuff. You got to know when you don't know your stuff and be willing to say, I don't know that, and decide whether or not it's worth pursuing. No, we're not going to go down that road. It's an interesting topic, but doesn't fit here. Or, hey, you know what? That piques my interest and it's important for everybody else to know. Stand by. I'll do some research. It does not hurt to have a reasonable presentation skill. Mike talks about this in interview skills. It's the same kind of thing. Hopefully you don't hear me say too much and and so you want to have some decent language skills. Doesn't have to be English, whatever your language you're teaching in. There goes an I was the shy, nerdy kid in school, and some foolish teacher once convinced me to work on the theater stuff. Now, being the geek, I headed for lights and sound. But the next year, get a bit part on stage with us. Something in the chorus. Just sing with everybody else. Sing in the choir. And hey, you know what? That's not so scary. I'm out there with somebody else. Now, we're going to put you in a play. We're going to give you a line or two. And, you practice that line. You stand in front of that mirror. As an instructor, a new instructor, I stood in front of a mirror and I taught myself looking hopefully at my book seldomly and talking and keep working those skills. You can work the skills. You don't have to stand on a stage and talk to a group of people. Do this with a friend. Hey, can I talk to you about something? Can I do a little practice presentation? I just learned something really cool about how to change my windshield wipers, and give them 3 minutes and then take questions. So know your stuff. Be comfortable talking to people. Get comfortable talking to people. You don't have to be. It's a learnable skill. And what I'm doing and what Mike does is not something that anybody can't do. It takes time. It takes learning. You've got to put the effort into knowing more than your topic. You got to be able to go a little bit deeper and maybe even a lot deeper. But there's nobody here that I'm reading who couldn't do this as well as or better than I. Maybe not Scott. He is just, such a high bar that none of us can ever achieve that. Moving on. We have matches of throwing toilet bowls. We're going to need to see video on that, Andre. Okay, I'm going to skip over firearm stuff now. Not everybody is as stunningly comfortable. Yes, you should build a trebuchet. Telewood has built one, and everyone should. Dude, did SCA for years. You need to hook up with Scott. You need to do it again. You need to do it more. Because we like watching the videos of you guys. Yes. I was in the barony of the Western Seas. Okay, very cool. Scott will probably poke in and identify which guild he is in. Guilds. He is in multiple of these organizations. He is a true believer. I wanted to build one. Why would I choose a computer? A computer with a. I would choose a computer with a maple neck over a rosewood neck because they make your computer sound so much better. If you were asking me about guitars and rosewood necks and maple necks, I'm a old school guy, same with everybody else. I'm looking at my handy dandy guy here with his rosewood. I can't say that I have the ear, and especially now having age and many jet engines running through my ear, I don't hear the difference between a high quality instrument and a lesser quality instrument these days, but others do. You know what? Here again, let me bring Michael Smyer back into the game. Visually and auditorially, you will never find a more discerning and perceptive person. He can hear those things that the rest of us who are of my age and perhaps Mike's and Scott's cannot hear. He can see the differences between this kind of screen and that kind of screen. And of course, Mike. So Scott gives us the stock answer, and I would agree with it. Maple warning or maple necks. Somebody says better tone. I got a question posted here. Why would you choose a maple neck over rosewood neck? Better tone. There may be a computer joke in there. I may be missing something here. Terrence was in sales and dragged around computers and said they'd hold entire encyclopedias. Somebody else is in Stargate. Oh, okay, Scott is. Okay, so multiple baronies represented here. Yeah, someday on a private forum, I'll show you the pictures of Scott in the thong in the club. It's not something that we put on private in public. Degaussing, you got it. Well, I got that. I got with that line. I missed that. What are your thoughts on the right to repair movement? Okay, well, now it's politics, so we won't dive too deeply into that. I think we have always had a right to repair things, and for that to go away under the auspices that they're using, copyright violations, is horrific. For anybody who's not familiar with what PvP Boy is talking about here, there are devices being made like computer components within vehicles, tractors, whatever, that if and when they fail, the manufacturers, the owners are claiming copyrights to the contents of firmware and things like that in there, especially like if you're going to do one of those tuning things to add more power to your car or more efficiency. They're saying, no, you can't change that. That's copyrighted material. We are the only ones who are allowed to serve it. So you're asking me, I am for right to repair. Got in the way, haven't played in a few years. Yeah, life will do that to you, won't it? Most of us take breaks. I needed PC resources when changing. I'm just going to roll because we're getting toward the end here. Let me look for questions. Yeah, 64K. Why would you choose a computer? Okay, somebody did post that. I just hadn't gotten down to it that far. So, computer with a maple neck. I'm sure you meant guitar. I think. Now, of course, everybody, maple necks and rosewood fretboards. That's a nice combination. Turn around breach. Hey, I'm at the end here. Last question, CP Lastman. I was bogged down with the other career in gaming industry. Hey, there's something interesting. We talk to kids, and what do you want to do with computers? What do you want to do as a career? I want to be a game programmer, and there is this magical thing out there that if you don't know about this, it sounds so cool. And you would just want to strangle yourself with your own intestines if you actually did it, from the people that I've spoken with who do this. And that is game testing. So game testers, they don't get a mostly finished project. Some of them do, I suppose, and get to play the game and point out and find flaws. They do it sort of on a piece by piece interval. And okay, here's this section. Start doing it and start tearing it apart. And I am told that it's so boring and so horrible and so old, so fast, that there is no form of self-torture that's equal. So on paper, and even coders making games, it's a cool thing. It's a great creative thing. But when you get down to the mechanical aspects of creating games, it gets old. So I'm told. More questions, right to repair thing, getting complicated. Thanks, answers. Very nice stream. Thank you very much, PvP. Being game programmer is the equivalent to wanting to be a pro athlete when you were younger. Probably so. It's a much less glamorous thing than it portends to be. Hey, I see things quieting down. Let me do a little shutdown here and offer some quickie thoughts. First of all, thank you for inviting me into your computers in Mike's absence. I know that you miss him. We all do, and very certain that he'll get this resolved over the weekend. It appears from what I saw in some of the chatter on our feed lines here that Michael and Scott Jernigan work on, that there was an ISP problem. The reboot was an attempt to solve the problem, but it turned out to be a little deeper than that. So sure he'll be able to resolve that. Remember, we have a monstrous sale going on Sims and Total Tester, 50% off using the code MMLive527, the date on Monday. Again, if you're an instructor, contact Kathy. If you got an active course going on, she wants to help. I saw her last night crying on a curb saying, I haven't heard from anybody today. I want to help. And she was just tearful. So she's not on there. She's not joined this channel. So perhaps not. She is just the consummate professional. Contact information for Mike. Scott's going to post that now. My contact information, Kathy with a K, Kathy Y at totalsem.com. She is responsible for a million things. Like many of us, she wears tons of hats, certainly in the sales department, and very, very, very closely works with instructors, schools, and things like that, helping them identify and acquire products that are just great for their classes and students. My subscriber list may have gone up. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is just a little personal side website, YouTube, that I use for a side business. And not long ago, I became the webmaster for a popular band from the 70s who kind of still around. And I posted a video of one of the concerts I went to a little while back. And that took my subscribers up from about 3 to much more. There's not much activity on this site, and you'll probably never see it again, but it's a lot of fun. So yes, Scott is posting Kathy's email. It's Kathy Y, all one word, the letter Y, at totalsem.com. I am drushtx at yahoo.com, or Dave R, Dave Rush, Dever, at totalsem.com. There's Mike's address. Scott just posted that, Michael M at totalsem.com. I could have done that. Okay, now I'm going to learn how Mike closes this thing. I've done these in practice, but I've always just killed it. So thank you again all for being here. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Michael Smyer. Wonderful, wonderful guys, and all the folks here, other folks who support it. Thank you all for coming. We will see you Monday, back to a regular Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. And I would expect at this time that Mike will probably do the VLANs and manage switches on Monday. So with that, you guys have a wonderful and safe weekend. Stay safe. Do what you're doing there. Those of you who are frontline providers, cannot thank you enough. We all honor and respect you. And keep safe. You're all great. Let me try this. I got to go to a page and learn how to kill this thing. There's a button there that looks like, oh, yeah, there's a button that says end stream. So with that, I'll say, steal from Mike. Good night. Good night.